Good day, YouTube, and those that are part of the Cringe Crew Gaming Discord, and those that follow Ted and I at Twitch. I am Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And this is the Cringe Crew Gaming Movie Review Podcast, and I got it right?
We nailed it.
Finally, third time's the fucking charm. And what we are doing with this is that we are, again, doing like a theme, like we normally do, with the last time, which would be like season 0, we did all the Bond films. This time around, we've switched things. Where me being the newbie and Ted being the uber super fan, we're doing Christopher Nolan films.
Pretty excited, man. Pretty excited. We've started off with a few bangers.
Yeah. Oh, and we are here with his third film, Insomnia, released in 2002. And I just found this out. It's a remake.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's a remake of the 1997 Norwegian film of the same name.
That explains so many things.
Yeah. It is also the only film that by Christopher Nolan that he did not write or co-write, which explains a lot as well.
Does explain a lot. Suddenly I have to think on the fly.
Yeah. It was a budget of $46 million and got a box office return of $113.8 million. So, a success. And it was also a critical success, mainly because of Robin Williams and Al Pacino, which I'm pretty sure we'll get into with likes and some dislikes. But anyway, in this we have Al Pacino as Detective Will Dormer, Robin Williams as the would-be serial killer Walter Finch, Hilary Swank as Detective Ellie Burr, Maria Turner as Rachel Clement, Martin Donovan as Detective Hap Eckert, with those that don't know, Al Pacino, Michael Corleone, Robin Williams, Chidi from Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, come on. Who doesn't know who the hell Al Pacino, Rob Williams is? Hilary Swank, $1 Million Baby. Mari Tenney, News Radio, ER. She was in Semi-Pro. Oh, Liar Liar. She's the wife in Liar Liar.
Yep. Yeah. I knew she was... I just kept calling her Max's mom throughout the whole movie because... It took about 8 seconds to place what else she was in, but it's like, she's Max's mom!
And Martin Donovan plays Tom Gordon in The Ghost Whisperer, and he's in quite a few other films, such as Flirt, Amateur, Simple Man, Book of Life. And he's also protagonist CIA handler, the protagonist CIA handler Faye in Christopher Nolan's science fiction action thriller film Tenet. So we're going to be seeing more Martin Donovan.
Neat. I forgot he
was
there.
I totally just not find out reading. Yeah. Because I tried to think of it. But anyway, with casting, this movie is noted for Insomnia as Robin Williams playing a villain, deviating from his comedic roles, which he is earlier known for. And Christopher Nolan referenced this, said this. He goes, I think audiences will come away feeling like they've seen a new Robin Williams. Seen Robin Williams do something they would have never imagined he would do or could do. Nolan also said of his acting, what I thought of Robin was, well, he was an extraordinary guy to work with, and he really gave what I considered to be a flawless performance. I wound up watching the film hundreds of times as we cut it, and I never hit that point with the performance where you start to see the acting. Most performances at a point, bits start to peel off in a way, but with Robbins, he was very much in that character. Not that he's a very dark person to work with. He's a very lively and friendly and amusing to work with. He found something within himself. I think it's a very underrated bit of work on his part.
Does it say there who was responsible for casting? Like, was it Christopher Nolan, or was there a team deciding on?
I can't find anything on that.
Okay.
Apparently, Nolan wasn't originally supposed to direct. It was supposed to be Jonathan Demme, who is known for making films such as Cage Heat, Melvin and Howard, Swing Shift, Something Wild. And he also directed The Silence of the Lambs. There we go.
That actually kind of makes sense.
And also Philadelphia.
That feels like it's closer to the vibe. Okay.
And Harrison Ford was actually originally considered Al Pacino's part.
That's interesting. I think Harrison Ford would have done an okay job, but I think Pacino definitely nailed his role. Anyway,
I agree as well. Well, and I want to bring up one last thing before we get into likes and dislikes. This was actually filmed in Canada and also British, not Canada. British Ontario, Canada. British Columbia, Canada, not Ontario. Yeah. Damn it! I was doing so well. Now it's scuffed.
Nailed it.
And then also in Valdez, Alaska. So this was also shot on location a little bit.
Interesting.
But anyway, so the director of the original film, Eric Skjolberg.
You 100% nailed that one.
Skjolberg. Okay, here we go.
Stolberg, probably.
Probably. All right. Please put that up. I'm gonna link it to you later. Please put that up in words when I'm trying to pronounce Eric Skjolberg, or
Skolbjerg, probably.
Yeah, SKJOLBJAE, but like combined RG.
Yeah, I'm feeling like you need maybe some Nordic lessons, just basic pronunciations. Anyway, we've been trying to do. Oh, that's right. I cut off your entire point. Go ahead.
All right. This is what he said of Nolan's reinterpretation. It was quite close stylistically to the original. I felt lucky that it's such well crafted. I mean, it's such a well crafted, smart film that it had a really good director handling it. Because as a remake, I think it did really well, and it doesn't hurt any original if a remake is well done. So I felt lucky that Christopher Nolan took upon himself to do it.
I think that's pretty high praise. Respect.
It comes down to likes and dislikes. What do you want to go with first?
What? Don't cut me off too early. We also have to get to plot. We didn't do this during the Bond films because it was 26 of the same movie, basically. But we made it a point after the first one of these podcasts that we kind of wanted to walk you through the basic premise of the story because they're not all the same story, So this one, to really boil it down, was somewhat a detective film. This hotshot cop comes from L.A. into Canada, Alaska. Alaska was where it was. They filmed in Alaska, in Canada, but yeah, in Alaska, trying to help solve a crime. There was some confusion, I guess, with a partner and some maybe twisted motives, and then the 24 hours of daylight that happens in northern parts of Alaska caused him to experience some insomnia, where you kind of watch his character devolve through the end of the story. Pretty neat film. I think kind of to give us a more seamless transition into likes and dislikes. I think that the telling of the story and the way that the plot advances around his insomnia, I think is pretty cool. The character development that you typically see in a lot of higher end thoughtful movies, I think is usually just you kind of learn more. And this one, you're actively watching the reasons why the character is developing. You're seeing actively the reasons that the characters are changing, and I think they do a good part in playing around that. I mean, especially Robin Williams' character with the phone calls to contact the Insomniac to really further along why the character is devolving and his fixation on Robin Williams. I think is really neat. And while we're on it, Al Pacino and Robin Williams both played their roles pretty fantastically. I think they really hit all their spots. They were convincing as characters, and who they are as actors and the other things that you've seen them in also help you buy into the believability of the characters.
Yeah, especially Robin Williams. Like,
Absolutely. You know, like I see this joke on the internet all the time where it's like, have you ever watched a villain monologue and he's like how terrible people are and why they're so awful and evil, and you start to agree with them. Like, Robin Williams was saying some really inhumane shit, but like, you kind of bought in anyway. His delivery was flawless. Like, he had his own self-belief. I mean, one of my favorite Robin Williams movies is actually also not a comedy. It's Good Will Hunting, and in that one, it's the same kind of. He carries this importance, this gravitas, while still speaking a level below his transcendence. Right? That like, I think that he really melds into that role well. His delivery, his cadence, his facial expressions allow you to buy so much into that character. Like, it's just. It was phenomenal acting. Like, this may be his best role. I don't think it's his best film, but it might be his best role.
it's up there. I think he's a little bit better in 1 Hour Photo, and also shit. What's crap? Jeff Bridges is in it. It's like I'm looking up on my goddamn phone, but like my hands are all greasy because of the freaking.
Well, while Stahlman figures that out, I'll continue to move.
The Fisher King. Fisher King.
Fisher
Wait, I
King.
think it's Fisher King. I think that's what it is.
Anyway, one of the other things that I enjoyed about this movie was how important the setting was. Like, I think it became a central factor into why the story.
Yeah, it is
was,
Fisher King.
Okay, the setting, the like filming on location, doing the things that like. So there's a scene that kind of recurs throughout the movie where Al Pacino's character is trying to tape up his windows to make it dark, and I think that like they really did a good job building those sets around his insanity. The imagery was really good. They used a lot of like peculiar and different shots to give you a sense of discomfort where you're really seeing the character feel things. And I thought that like putting it in the setting where this insomnia occurred was really impactful.
The interesting thing about the insomnia part is that you're not sure if it's due to the fact that it's daylight all the time, or it's because of past, guilt that he has over certain events in the movie and that occurred before the movie and during the movie.
And like I said about the development too, that those things kind of interact, right? You're watching the daylight become more and more impactful as he's getting more and more like, I don't want to call them nightmares because he's not quite asleep, but like the images of his past catching up and coming more frequent and more intense as he's losing sleep. The light gets brighter and harder to block out. Like those things develop really well together. I thought it was visually and like visually super satisfying, and the imagery they used to convey their story was really significant and impactful, and definitely required a lot of thought. I give that a lot of praise.
Same. Again, I think it also comes down to also the acting performances. Like Pacino and Williams both fucking nail it to a T. Like, even though Pacino, like, I will let you know, like, you do want subtitles on for this one because Pacino's voice is very gravelly and kind of, quiet. But like, but throughout this film, like, commenting on Pacino's acting, I wasn't sure if like he was like really good at being like a tired insomniac old man, or if that's just how Al Pacino is was at that point in time, just for how like very realistic like how realistically he acted so disoriented throughout basically the film and how, like you said, how it would like progress even more. Like even like near like the last part, like he's hallucinating while he's like driving. And then I remember Ted just going like, "That's actually a real thing. Like if you haven't
yeah.
slept in days, that actually happens."
You can't fall asleep. You can't lull yourself to calmness. You just kind of hyperfixate on weird shit in like a dreamlike trance. And they did it with something so simple as wiper blades, but they made it louder. They made it more impactful. They changed the camera angles so that like you were seeing his focus hit the wipers. Like it's just the imagery they used, absolutely incredible. This movie was so thorough.
I also have to comment on some of the action scenes in this. Like there are a couple action scenes in this, and it almost kind of makes me, since next one's going to be Batman Begins, it makes me wonder if like, you know, if Nolan with like getting, I mean, grant like there was kind of action scenes in Memento, but like nothing like that you would say that would be something of that would be in a superhero movie. But like, the shot where I'm at the scene where Al Pacino's chasing Robin Williams across like that river with all the logs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder if like if Nolan like used that to really gain experience for like Batman Begins or like The Dark Knight. I'm gonna be really trying to see like how he shoots. I'm really gonna focus on how he shoots action scenes in the next, you know, couple movies.
Yeah, I think this
comparing
is
to this.
it's a really weird 3-film stretch. Like, not to jump too far ahead of ourselves and make this a Batman podcast. Like, to go from Memento to Insomnia and then to a Batman film is 3 very different pieces of work. We mentioned earlier that he wasn't supposed to have this directorial role. It being a remake of a film. Like, I mean, I think that kind of handicaps some of your freedom over the movie as Christopher Nolan, but like also still to see some of his influences in it and where he got to
Yes.
put his hands and his creativity on this project, I think is
I don't
interesting to look at.
I don't know if anybody else could have really. I mean, I know the guy from Silence of the Lambs was supposed to direct it, and granted, it is a remake, but Nolan does a good job at disorienting the audience. So, what a better job than showing Pacino's loss of sanity as the movie goes on, than to have Christopher Nolan really, show that. And like the different editing styles that he does to really like show Pacino just coming loose.
And I guess without seeing the original, like, it's hard to say what of that is repurposed, recreated, and redone.
Right, because
And
I've never seen. I didn't know this was a remake until I brought that up on Wikipedia like 5 minutes ago.
Definitely just interesting. Like, I almost want to go watch the what'd you say?
Original.
Yeah, I forget what country of origin you said it was from.
Norway.
Okay, I knew it was something Nordic, but anyway, very very interesting.
It's nice to know that we're not just doing this to the Japanese; we also do this to the Norwegians.
Yeah.
If you don't know the reference that I'm talking about Ringu, The Ring, The Grudge, Pulse, subpar remakes of the original.
Yeah.
But apparently the director actually liked this one, so therefore,
fair.
when we compare the two, maybe this is, right up there.
I am curious if you have more likes, because my dislike list is probably going to be surprisingly long.
My dislikes is actually short, but it's like one major dislike, if that.
Sure. I'll take them both. Any other likes you've got, and then right into the dislikes.
Let's see. I'd say like the acting's. I already went down with the acting. I thought like the setting, like everything being shot on location, really was well done. I also like the lighting. I actually have to say is which, you know, obviously how we were talking about how like everything gets brighter and brighter and brighter as it goes on, like the lighting being so methodical, and also shooting and editing on some action scenes. Uh yeah, I really don't got anything else more, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
cinematically it was smooth. I do agree with you. The lighting was, I guess, the most noticeable because like it was very intentional. But I mean the way they did it was impactful. If they're filming on location and it is in fact light 24 hours a day, like to then make light more significant, more bright, more noticeably bright. Like I think that's good work by them.
all right. That being said, you want me to go to my big freaking dislike?
Have at it.
All right. Now, I know that we said that the character work, like the character development, is good. That is true. However, in my opinion, that only pertains to Al Pacino and Robin Williams. Everybody else is very one dimensional for whatever goddamn reason. Like, Martin Donovan's basically like, you know, the hip sidekick to Al Pacino. Hilary Swank is the young rookie cop that has hero worship over Al Pacino. Uh, and everybody else is just basically like very one dimensional. Like you have like the edgy kid teenager that's like the murder victim's boyfriend. You know, he's like smoking a cigarette. I don't care. And then you have like her best friend. She's smoking a cigarette. Like, I'm so edgy. It's just, you know, your stereotypical mystery thing where you have stock characters that have nothing to them really. Which is a shame with like Hilary Swank because she's like a really good actress, and it's not that she's bad, but like what she's given is just so fucking milquetoast and stock, you
I
know?
I think the only place that like yes, it's noticeable, but I think the only place it's really significant for me is with Hilary Swank's character because she does play such an important role for the plot line.
Right.
Like some of the other characters just being bit characters, like they're not in it that long. They don't impact the story that long. It's just would be weird if this was a 3 character movie, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't bother me that bad, except Hilary Swank's character is like you said, very hero worship, very much idolizing Al Pacino, and it doesn't change, it doesn't evolve, and it tends to be her whole personality.
And it's just so off-putting, especially with it being her. Because it's, and this isn't like something that's really early in her career either, because like wait, hold on. Let me see if Boys Don't Cry is before this movie. I think it is. Yeah, Boys Don't Cry in 1999. Amazing performance. Like she plays a transgendered man in that, and she kills that role. And then seeing her in this only what like 3-4 years later, and
Right.
it's just
It
it,
is strange.
it's
Yeah, I like I said, that's the place where that really bothers me. I don't think that like I would make that be a huge detraction on the film, but I do think Hilary Swank was underdeveloped. It was on my list.
it's just the underdevelopment is of like certain characters. It's just kind of with a lot of things being so well done with like especially like Pacino and like Robin Williams's characters being so developed.
Yeah, the one thing along a
It
similar
just
line is that like while these like even Pacino and Robin Williams, right? Like while they're well acted, well performed characters, I felt like there was difficulty attaching to the characters. Like
yes.
you didn't really have any reason to be invested in them other than they were the ones in the story, right? Robin Williams
Right.
again acted his ass off. I mean, among his best roles ever, but like there just didn't feel like there was any reason to be concerned at all with what he said, what he did, whatever. Like, yes, it was well done, but you don't care. Pacino the same way. Like, you feel for the guy that he's an insomniac, that he's going through all the grief, all the guilt, but like, again, you just you didn't back him. They didn't give you enough draw in to be concerned. Even with The Following that we watched a couple of movies ago, like, you didn't know the character's name and you gave a shit about him. Like, you just, the way that the story was written, you had to be invested in him. And even though Pacino is the lead in this, acting really well, I just felt difficulty attaching to the characters.
It also doesn't help that I know a lot of people, it's like, well, it's Al Pacino. How come you don't care about Al Pacino? It's like, you don't understand. During this time period, Al Pacino's acting wasn't really that great. The fact that it's good in this is amazing, because like in the 90s, the only thing I can think of that was a good performance was Heat.
Yeah, and
seeing him back to form in this is like refreshing, but I wish it would have it would have made me care about the character, it's no issue on him. It's all down to writing.
Yeah, in other, like, police films or television shows or whatever, you get an attachment because they're hero symbols, right? Like, they're doing something positive. And this very early on starts with, yes, he's a cop, yes, he's a rock star, but you have no background or reason why. And then he does something, like, not positive, right? Like, you just have difficulty building that bond with the characters that gives you an investment or a reason to care or root for them even. Another issue I had was this was based as a crime drama, I guess, like not your stereotypical crime drama, but it's
not like it's I guess a crime thriller.
Yeah, I guess, like, it's not based around the crime. Like, I hate to give it that.
That's it. Okay, Wikipedia says psychological crime thriller. I'm like,
yeah, okay, that works.
I guess in the Diet Coke sense.
Yeah, it's based around cops and crime, but it's not your stereotypical cop show, right? Like, I guess my issue is that, like, for it being like that being such a central focus of the plot, the driving force of the story is that they're police trying to solve something, right? Or several things, I guess. Like, the police work was super inconsistent. Sometimes they were really on top of things and doing really well, and sometimes it was just Pacino's intuition saying, hey, break this law, do this thing because we're right. And the inconsistencies bothered me a lot. Similarly, like, so there's a scene at the end with a gunfight where they're trying to stop Robin Williams, right? And I brought this up while we were watching, that, like, there's just enough inconsistencies, and like, the harder you think about it, the more holes that you find. He steals
Hilary Swank's gun.
He steals Hilary Swank's gun. He takes it on his person. Pacino and Hilary Swank are then in the same room trying to have a gunfight with Robin Williams, who runs away to grab a different gun and never uses her gun while they're both defenseless and in the same room as him. Like, it's a weird small thing, but, like, the harder you look throughout this movie, the more inconsistencies there are. I don't want to chalk that all up to it's a bad film and bad writing, right? Like, right. I again wonder how much of that is trying to keep accuracies to source material and just things being overlooked. Like, I start to feel as though, even though I just learned that, like, hey, this is a remake, that, like, the focus was on keep this as close to the original and tell the same story, rather than the careful consideration that Christopher Nolan typically puts into his films.
Yeah, I mean, I agree fully.
I think the biggest thing for me is, in terms of dislikes, was just that this movie was hard to chew on. Typically, again, I'm putting this through a Christopher Nolan filter, which I'm probably only doing because that's the topic of our podcast, but a lot of them,
it's very much not like what you would think a Christopher Nolan film would be.
I guess, like, there's just enough psychologically that, like, there's enough mystery, there's enough mystique, there's enough confusion or unknowing that forces you into the plot line, and this just didn't have that. I don't know that it's because it was a linear storytelling, but I guess it just, like, it felt like any other standard movie. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it didn't do enough to get you hooked, enough to, like, really make you feel like you cared about the ending by the end of it. Like, this is something that you could have on TV. You could watch most of it and enjoy it while you're doing something else, and I don't think you'd miss a whole lot. And it just feels like it's so far short of the bar that Christopher Nolan sets with every other project.
The thing is with this movie, and I'm old enough to remember the trailers and everything. A lot of this movie was sold on Robin Williams being the bad guy. And I think like that's really what you can really take away from this. It's just like, yeah, it's a movie where Robin Williams is the bad guy, and it's interesting to see it. And I can only think of one other movie where he's like that, and that's 1 Hour Photo, you know?
Yeah, we both said this last night or 2 nights ago as we were watching that I think that had this been Christopher Nolan's first project, you could be like, okay, this is a springboard to bigger and better and taking the same concepts and doing it better. But it feels like such like reverting to the mean because we've seen 2 really good projects that were even earlier on. Again, I think a lot of that comes down to source material and trying to keep the integrity of it, but I guess it's just weird to see this project be a Christopher Nolan project.
Right, and to me, I also said, I think with this being like a normal linear film, to me, I kind of feel it's more so getting ready for like Batman Begins, because obviously, what we saw in Following, where we saw like the main character have a Batman sticker on his door. Obviously, Christopher Nolan really wanted to direct a Batman film, so maybe he figured this was a way for him to get even more into the mainstream. Like, hey, I can do things besides unlinear storytelling.
I know we're going to bring this up again next week, but even though that storyline is a whole lot more linear, like at least it gives you the mystique, the draw, the pull. I mean, again, we're going to watch it through a tighter lens than I've typically watched it through.
Shit, never mind. 1 Hour Photo was before Insomnia. Wow.
Well, I'm glad we closed that loop. No, I just like it feels weird for this project to be in this part of the timeline for Christopher Nolan. I think I would have a much less harsh lens on it had this been first rather than third. I think this just kind of sat in a really uncomfortable position for watching chronologically.
Yeah, I would agree because like, spoiler for rankings, this one's like number 3 for me.
Yeah, and a pretty distant third. Like I don't think there's a whole lot of gap for me personally between 1 and 2. This one there's quite a bit of separation. I think that I would think more highly of it. I'd probably still be third even if it came first, but then it would be understandable because it's his first. It's his springboard to finding his creative voice.
Yeah, because like I agree, this isn't a bad film. Like it's a, I don't want to say mediocre. Like it's a good film, but it's not like a like a, not necessarily like a must see film. It's like if it's on, like, hey, you should probably watch it. It's nothing spectacular, but like it's not like meh.
It's the high end of average. Like it's definitely worth the watch, but I think that if you're going to watch for Christopher Nolan or for mystery or for like some sense of confusion, a movie that forces you to think, this just isn't it.
Yeah, no, this isn't it. This is a holy shit, Robin Williams is a murderer. That's what you get.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we've already kind of given our rankings. I mean, I know they're pretty short because we've only got 3, and this isn't like we've got to fit it into a plane of 26 other movies. So I think that about wraps us up for material on this one.
Right.
All right. Well, as always, please be sure to follow us both on Twitch, Stahlman at Traductus, myself at Ted Green Eagles. Hop in the Discord. You can watch movies with us on Tuesday. And, get involved. Tell us what we should watch next, what director, what series, whatever. With that, see you when we see you. With that,
the next movie that we are going to go for is Batman Begins. Or maybe you should do the voice.
I'm Batman. I also kind of just want to watch the College Humor Batman videos just for shits and giggles too. But that'll be a Discord exclusive. Be sure to hop in there and join. Anyway,
Oh shit, wrong cloud.
Yeah. That's going to wrap us up for this week. We will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.
Later.